Hi everyone, welcome back to The Early Show with me, Pastor Jean I. This week, I'm going to be answering a question about organ donation. But first, before we get there, I would like to thank the sponsor of today's sharing, Bunyi, who wishes to dedicate their contribution towards the aspiration that all beings be well and happy. So, organ donation. Organ donation is the process of donating tissues or organs of the body for the purpose of transplantation to others who need them, because there's been damage or failure to the organs or tissues of the recipient. There are two types of organ donation, which are living organ donations or cadaveric organ donation. But I'm not here today to discuss the nuances of either. I'm here today to talk about how Buddhism views organ donation in general and whether or not we should or are allowed to do it. To cut a long story short, yes, Buddhists are allowed to donate our organs. In fact, it's even encouraged, especially if our organ will save a life or provide a better quality of life to the recipient. Now let's talk specifically about cadaveric organ donation, which is the one that a lot of people have a lot of questions about. Are Buddhists allowed to donate our organs after we die? Again, long story short, the answer is yes. Now typically resistance to organ donation comes from our loved ones who don't want us to donate our organs after we die just in case we don't look presentable for the funeral or they don't get our body back and so on. The first thing you need to realize is that when someone is an organ donor, you do get their body back so you can hold a funeral. But that's not even the most important point. The most important point is why we have a funeral. If you think about it, we don't have funerals for the dead. We actually have funerals for the living. It's to give the living some sense of closure and an opportunity to generate merits for the deceased. But even with that, the reality is that most of the merit is generally really for yourself and only a small portion of it goes to your loved ones. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it, because something is still better than nothing. And the fact is that you can still have a funeral even without a body. You don't need to have a body to have a funeral or to do all of the ceremonies and prayers and rituals and offerings. The power of a prayer or ritual is not dependent or contingent on the physical presence of a body. So I repeat, you don't need to have a body or a corpse in order for your prayers for the deceased to have an impact. Now, as a Buddhist, we should understand that our body is a vessel for our consciousness. And once our loved one has passed on and their consciousness has left their body, that body is no longer the person that we love and that we are attached to. The second thing that we need to realize is that our body is actually a tool in order for us to purify karma and to generate merit. In order to gain enlightenment, we need to have a human body in order to engage in practice. That is the only reason why long life practices exist. We engage in practices like White Tara and Amitayus in order to extend our life so that we can have more time to work on our spiritual practice before we have to take an uncontrolled rebirth. So back to organ donation. If our body is a vessel for our consciousness and a tool for us to use for practice, then if we can do one last beneficial act with our bodies before it's discarded, then why not? Once we have died and our consciousness has left our bodies and has taken rebirth, the body is no longer needed, so don't cling on. Now the question comes, how do we lessen our attachment and our grip on our bodies? We can do that by meditating on the fact that life is impermanent and that our body is just a composition of different elements. Once the karmic conditions for our body to exist as we know it have changed or have ended, then our body will stop functioning and return to the elements. So take your loved one's funeral as an opportunity to meditate on impermanence and realize that the only thing that separates us from the corpse is one single breath. Think, that person used to be my father, my sister, my husband, my colleague, and now they're not. It will be the same for me one day. I may be here today, but tomorrow, in the next moment, I could be gone. When we regularly meditate like this, we will loosen our attachment to our own body and to other people's bodies. And the stress and the fear of dying one day will also be gone as well when we learn to accept this truth. Then we can live happily whilst we're still alive and die happily when it's our time. Finally, if your loved one has opted to become an organ donor after they die, rejoice for them that they had the thought to benefit others as their final act. That is the quality of person that you know. Someone who is kind and who thinks of others, especially in the case of a cadaveric organ donor. It means that your loved one is the kind of person who can donate their organs to benefit a complete stranger. And because they're already dead, your loved one won't even get to enjoy the compliments and the thank yous that they deserve. So I hope that I've answered your question. Organ donation is very much permitted, and in fact, it's even encouraged in Buddhism. That's it from me for this week. Once again, thank you very much for joining me, and thank you again to the sponsor of today's sharing. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time on the first Sunday of next month. Have a great week ahead, and as ever, please don't forget to be kind to each other. Bye!